Hey, what's up guys? NullRage here, and we're going to jump in and take another look at Kitty Pryde, see the changes that have come to her over the past week of iteration on the test center. Alright, so first off, we're going to treat this just sort of like it's a brand new skill preview and go through everything. Right off the bat, her synergy remains the same as in the previous skill iteration, 2% dodge chance, and 2% deflect projectile chance at 50. Alright, her powers are mostly, she's still going to start from the same location. You got the choice between having your dragon out, having Lockheed, your pet purple dragon, out, or having him, toggled off. So if you choose to have him out, though, choose to have him by your side, then he's now got this awesome little basic attack that he does every so often. And it is limited. He can only shoot things in front of you, so it's slightly limited in that way, but anything in front of you he will be randomly attacking, and that's pretty cool. Alright, but let's go ahead and toggle him off and have a look at the phasing tree. Martial arts combo remains mostly the same, just being a basic attack to restore some spirit. Let me get a better angle on it. There you go. Alright. Then we've got walking through walls. Now this has received quite a bit of changes, and it actually looks like she's walking through walls now. Like if she can actually go through a lot of different things, and she actually runs through the walls now, which is really cool. And it's still going to serve as a nice travel power.
I'm okay.
It's got a little bit of a spirit cost that's caused me some problems, but it looks a lot nicer than it did before, and the animation, it no longer looks like a teleport. However, it still functions basically the same, so you're going to be able to go through walls fairly easily. Alright, then we've got over here. Now this is going to be a secondary option for a movement skill. Say you don't want to use walking through walls. Let's say you're doing a Lockheed spec, so the dot on walking through walls is toggled off. Then you may want to instead go for over here. And also this is going to be, it's going to cause you restore spirit. It's a very nice alternative movement power, I'd say. Probably the one that I'll end up sticking with, depending on what kind of builds I run with her. Now, the one thing that I do have to note about this is there's a little bit of weirdness with the camera, and I believe this is exclusive to the smooth camera teleport mode. If I turn on fast camera teleport mode, then it works the same way fast camera teleport mode works on anybody else. So that's fine. But the smooth camera is still a little bit jerky with this particular skill, and maybe that can get resolved, make it a little bit smoother, because it's still a little bit jerky. But that's going to be a very nice movement power option. It's also going to restore spirit instead of costing spirit. Free travel anywhere you want to go. That's nice. Then we've got intangible. Is still going to be her defense passive with a little bit of a toggle. You can toggle it on to go invisible when you're out of combat and regenerate. It's going to increase your dodge rating, give you 20% damage negated, projectile deflection, regenerate when you hit an enemy. Oh wow, that's nice. And then it's also got the 25% damage to phasing powers against robots. And there aren't too many robots in the game, so that's not going to be all that useful, but maybe in Ultron mode it will be pretty nice. You and your allies gain dexterity as well, so very nice passive there. And having that regenerate when you hit an enemy on it is, I don't think that was on there in the initial iteration, and that's going to give her some regen, and that's very nice. Give her that sustainability. Alright, Quicksand is a brand new power since we saw the first iteration of the skills. It's going to do physical damage twice per second and slow anything around you. See, it's right there. There you go. So she's like actually reaching her hand into the ground and turning the ground into quicksand. That's pretty cool. I like that. Okay, we talked about all that stuff. Yep. Alright, now air walking remains the same, unchanged, and allow you to walk on air. It's pretty cool. Basic flight power, I guess. Then we've got non-corporeal beatdown. This skill remains mostly the same, giving us a nice single target spirit spender for the phasing tree. One thing that is still an issue in my opinion, but there's other skills that do this too, is if you have it slotted on your bar instead of one of your mouse buttons, then you will not move to the target. You'll just use it wherever you're standing and hit whatever's in front of you. However, if you put it on your mouse button like that, then you will move to the target and actually go and punch things. Now, there are other skills still in game on many other characters that function exactly this way. It's an annoyance for me, but maybe it's just how things work. I don't know. Then we've got just a phase. It's going to give you some damage as well as attack and move speeds. It's got a buff duration. It's a steroid. That's what it is. It's a 3-second buff on a 20-second cooldown that will cause you to gain attack and move speeds, damage, regen, and some spirit regen as well. So using this on cooldown will keep your spirit up. Spirit recovers regardless of power usage. Oh, right. That's the mechanic that makes it so that even if you're using spirit spending powers, you regenerate spirit as if you weren't using spirit spending powers. So if I'm doing this, I use up all my spirit. Then we've got some natural regen that kicks in. There it goes. Now it will, when you use this ability, when you use just a phase, you will not only will you regenerate normal spirit, but you'll also gain that natural spirit regen for a short period of time. So that's even more spirit return than what it shows on the skill, I guess. Also, you'll become invulnerable. Nice. Watch your step, physical damage, and vulnerability. This skill has received quite a few changes. Hold on, did I use just a phase? Let's go ahead and activate that. There we go. That's a little bit different. Was that her invisibility? Hold on, let me put intangible here on the bar. And now when I'm out of combat, I go invisible. Alright, that's normal invisibility. Nothing too fancy there, but what's just a phase? This is a little bit weird. I'm thinking this is definitely unfinished. That will most likely cause you to look like this or something when you use that skill. So, it is still test center, and they'll probably get that worked out. Okay. Next skill we've got is Watch Your Step, and like I said, this one has received some fairly significant upgrades here. Well, I don't know. Last time it simply wasn't done yet, and now it's going to be very nice. It's still going to give you that vulnerability and make you invulnerable for the power, but also cause you to gain 40% crit damage for 10 seconds. That'll be a huge damage boost. And here we go. Now, what just happened there is she dives into the ground and then pulls everyone in an area under the ground. Now, there are some different ways that this plays together with different enemies that you attack. I think most enemies are still going to get pulled under the ground, even if they're bosses, but little enemies, if they get pulled under the ground and they die from the hit of Watch Your Step, they won't come back out. They'll just fall. They'll be stuck underneath the ground, stuck in the ground by, the concept of the power. They sink under, and if they die from that hit, then they just fall into eternity, into whatever's underneath the ground, which is pretty cool. And you'll probably be using this every time it's up for that vulnerability and the crit damage boost, and that'll be very nice. Alright, then we've got Phased Out. This has received quite a bit of changes in... Well, I guess it still works the same way, except now it's AoE. Let's just use it. What's going to happen is you're going to go under the ground, and then you're going to be able to hold or hit the skill in order to move her AoE around. So, say I go under here, then I can, wherever my mouse moves, she will come up and do an AoE. And I can just hold that down while she's underground. She's also invulnerable during this entire power. That's going to be a very nice signature compared to what it was at the beginning, which was just you hit the button and then it attacks one random target in an area. It wasn't very spectacular, but it has been upgraded quite significantly, and I like that. Alright, then we've got Heartbreaker, and now if we look over here, we can see that there's a shared cooldown. While this is toggled off, a shared cooldown is turned off. That is Logan Style, Heartbreaker, and Watch Your Step, and Phasing Samurai. So if I toggle my Pet Purple Dragon on, then let's see, Watch Your Step and Heartbreaker. No, they don't share a cooldown. Watch Your Step shares a cooldown with Phasing Samurai over here. Yeah, there you can see the shared cooldown. And Heartbreaker and... which one was it? Heartbreaker and Logan Style. That's that one right there. So Heartbreaker shares a 3-second cooldown with Logan Style. And Watch Your Step and Phasing Samurai share an 8-second cooldown. But of course that is toggled off if you send your dragon away. And then you can use both of these skills together, which is pretty cool. Alright, Heartbreaker itself deals physical damage. This power always deals a critical hit and has 40% increased crit damage. Also stuns, has a cooldown of 4 seconds. It's your single target burst skill, I guess. You'll probably want to use it every time it's up. It's pretty nice. Then we've got over here in the Lockheed tree. Let's go ahead and turn Lockheed on. Lockheed has been upgraded quite a bit. The first thing here is his ability to auto attack. That's going to cause a lot more damage for the Lockheed spec overall. Then we've got, let's put Buddy System here, and Turn Up the Heat is a brand new skill. Spitballs is going to work basically the same as it did. He's going to spit out a fireball. And he's still got his energy system down here. He's got his own spirit resource that you have to manage. If you spam too many of his skills, then he won't be able to use anymore. But his one thing to note is that his skills do not cost you any spirit. So he's got his own spirit mechanic here. Buddy System, however, does cost you spirit, and it restores his spirit. There you go. This is what you'll want to use when you've used up a little bit of his spirit and want to get it back. That'll combo both you and Lockheed attacking the same target. Alright, then we've got Turn Up the Heat. This is a brand new skill that got put in during iteration. It's going to cause Lockheed to perch on your arm and blow fire at the enemies. There we go. That's really cool. Just a sustained AoE damage output, sort of like Damnation from Ghost Rider, I think. It's very similar to that. So if you need to take down a line of enemies, it's real good in Hollow Sim is the place where I like skills like this a lot, because everything's just kind of flooding into you. They're coming to you, you don't have to move, so you can just sit there and burn them down as they come at you. Very nice. Alright, Dragon's Breath is our next skill. It remains mostly the same, doing some energy damage twice per second and slowing the targets that are affected. There we go. And Line of Fire, however, has changed rather significantly. It's going to do energy damage and spend all of Lockheed's spirit to increase the damage it does by 4% per point of spirit spent. Let's keep reading that. If 100 of Lockheed's spirit is spent, this power will always deal a critical hit, and Buddy System gains Lockheed's spirit twice as fast for 4 seconds. 6-second cooldown on that effect. So there's a lot going on with this skill now, whereas before there just simply wasn't anything going on. Now you can use this as an alternative to dots. He's gonna dash through and do damage based on how much of his spirit you spend. You can see the spirit coming back now. If you use it at full spirit, then it's going to bottom out your spirit, do a lot of damage, but then your Buddy System is going to restore spirit twice as fast. So you can do this little combo here, buddy system and line of fire for pretty significant damage output. And then Shadow and Flame, I don't know if it had this effect before, but it now gives you a 10% damage increase to Lockheed's power and buddy system for 10 seconds. So anything that's tagged as a Lockheed power, that's Spitballs, Turn Up the Heat, Dragon's Breath, Line of Fire, Lockheed himself, I guess, maybe gets a little bit, does his auto attack get a increase off of this? I'm not sure. Because it's not technically tagged as a Lockheed power, but it is Lockheed himself. I don't know. Alright, and here's Shadow and Flame. Kitty does a kick. Lockheed does a breath of fire. And it's got a pretty significant cooldown on it. What is that? 8 seconds? 8-second cooldown, yeah. So you'll only want to... you probably want to start off with this and then go into Spitballs and Turn Up the Heat if you're doing that build. Let's see. There you go. So you go in, throw some of that, and then... Oh, that's the wrong skill. That's the wrong skill. Here we go. Dragon's Breath. That's what I'd want. Spitballs and Dragon's Breath to put those dots on. So Shadow Flame, Spitball, Dragon's Breath, or other way around. And then Buddy System to get his spirit back up. And then maybe work in Line of Fire there. I don't know. The rotation is still going to have to get... I'll still have to figure that out. Through some testing. But anyway, that's the Lockheed tree. It's been upgraded quite a bit, I'd say. And then now we've got the Ninjutsu tree. Now, there are probably builds... Yeah, I've been just unsummoning my Pet Purple Dragon whenever I use any of these other two trees here, right? But there's probably builds that would be able to use... some of these skills with a little bit of Lockheed, to actually have Lockheed out but be a samurai too. I don't know. You'd have to play around and see what kind of builds you come up with. Alright, Shadowcat's Pirouette is going to do physical damage and apply that dot as long as you do not have my Pet Purple Dragon summoned. And let's see, it's also going to apply a weaken. There we go. That seemed like a lot of damage. Oh, I see what's going on. That's actually kind of cool. When you use this skill, you get, like, it hits initially, and then it applies a tick of the dot. While in between that first hit and the next hit, the dot's ticking a little bit. But then the dot gets reapplied and does an instant tick there at the beginning. So you got a lot of numbers going out if you just spam this. So you get a few ticks from that first initial dot application, and then you get it starts over, and it could be nice for some AoE burst output there. Alright, then we've got Katana Slash. Going to do physical damage and, let's see, increased damage over time versus targets with, or increased damage against targets affected by your damage over time skills, I guess. There you go. And this is your basic in the tree. And it looks like the animations for this tree have been worked on quite a bit. We've got Ogun's Training. Let's go ahead and put the rest of this on the bar here. Ogun's Training is going to be your basic DPS passive. Regardless of what tree you're using, you'll probably want to max this out for that damage rating, that crit hit rating, that crit hit damage rating. And then there's a nice little effect here that restores spirit when you critically hit or brutally strike. Now these kind of things, you can see them at work on Jean Grey or Black Widow, probably a few other characters. I think Black Panther may have actually just gotten one. Now if you get, since the whole game is basically geared around maxing out your crit and brute strike chance, getting this kind of power can take care of your spirit problems. Now, it is of course disabled in my Pet Purple Dragon spec, so that, which is okay, I guess, because you've only got one skill that you're really spending spirit on, and that's Buddy System. Everything else is using Lockheed's spirit, so your spirit management requirements are much lower in Lockheed spec than they would be in phasing or ninjutsu. But that's pretty much going to take care of any spirit needs in these two specs, I'd say, with a decent amount of crit. Also, let's see, movement power. These ratings are increased by 25% for 8 seconds when you use a movement power, phasing samurai, or watch your step. So if you use watch your step or phasing samurai here, then you will boost the amount of damage rating and crit hit rating and crit damage rating that you get from Ogun's training. That's pretty nice. It's also your CC breaker. Discipline Strike. It's going to do some physical damage and 25% damage increase against people affected by your damage over time skills. Alright, so if we hit them with, there we go, pirouette, then we'll do more damage with the skill. Now the animation here, I think it's been, I remember recording this initially and it was a little bit weird, but it still does the sliding feet, but I think that's more, it's a lot more natural looking than it was before. So I think the animation there has been upgraded rather nicely. I'm not a martial artist, so I don't actually know how your feet would move using this disciplined strike fighting style. But that's pretty cool. Katana Dash. Now this is one that was interesting. It looks like it has remained mostly the same. It's going to do some physical damage and apply a bleed as you go through targets, giving the ninjutsu tree a dash option, whereas over here in phasing you've kind of got two. Well, I guess over here might be used, actually that would be great for the Lockheed tree because it'll give you that spirit regen, which you wouldn't have from Ogun's training. So you'll definitely want to use over here if you're doing Lockheed. Alright, then we did Katana Dash, phasing samurai. Right, this is now, it shares a cooldown if you have my pet purple dragon. It shares a cooldown with watch your step, but if not, then you can use both of them. It's going to do physical damage, it's going to apply vulnerability, you're going to be invulnerable while you use it, and it's going to increase damage over time powers by 25%. So if you're using the ninjutsu tree, if you're making things bleed with Shadowcat's pirouette or Katana Dash, then you'll want to use this every time it's up for that buff effect. Uh-oh, I cut off the top there. It's a little bit, she goes way high up in the air when she uses that. So she'll, phase through the ground, teleport to a location, come through with a huge AoE, and, spinning up into a nice little pirouette kind of thing, which is really nice. Alright, then we got Logan style, physical damage, and has an execute on it. It's also going to do 25% increased damage against targets affected by your dots. We used it just a little bit ago, but there it is. Just a real quick stab right to the enemy's gut. That's cool. I like that. Alright, and then finally, Soul Sword. Now, Soul Sword, I don't think it's changed at all, actually. I was freaking out over the amount of damage rating and dodge and instantly defeating normal enemies and regenerating health and spirit. Like, there's so much going on in this skill, and it looks like all of that stuff's gonna remain. I have no gear on right now. And what's interesting about this, the Soul Sword, is that the instantly defeat normal enemies, the way it works is by just increasing your damage against normal enemies by ridiculous amounts. So it's not even like they just get deleted. It's going to boost your damage and you're going to see some ridiculous numbers. Like, I'm still going to kill these dummies. And that was with no gear. Now I'm gonna go over here and, oh no, I gotta actually use the sword, don't I? All right, I'm using the sword. Oh, I don't actually have to use the sword. Okay, they changed the way this worked in the last build. It now, you only get that damage rating. After the initial hits, you do not get the instantly defeat normal enemies. Or maybe you do. Maybe the buff effect. I don't know, but you do get that damage rating. You do go 100% dodge, and you regenerate health and spirit, you're going to be pretty much invulnerable and do a lot of damage during the buff for the soul sword. That's pretty nice. Alright, so that was Kitty Pryde. A second look. And I imagine this is where most of you will decide that's all to the video. But before I sign off, I do want to talk about this type of second look at some characters, when I will, when I won't do them, because I know a few of you, anytime there's a change, I get some comments on the last skill preview or whatever my latest video is, asking, hey, there were some changes to this character, can you make a video? And let's talk, real talk for just a second. I don't always have the time to look at every change for a character that comes through on Test Center. That's the hard truth of it. Now, what I like to do, my general process is as soon as a character is on Test Center and I get the time to sit down and look at that character, I make a skill preview video. And usually that's like day one. Now, a lot of times when that happens, that's day one, so the character is in a very early state, and based on player feedback on the Test Center forums and all that jazz, there are often a lot of changes that happen over the next week of iteration or so. And then, so if the changes are significant enough, things like major animation changes, brand new skills, like there's at least 4 brand new skills that she got here. The key playstyle of the character, I guess, remains mostly the same. Now, there have been characters before that have changed just drastically, but anyway, if the changes are enough that I feel another video is warranted, then I will often make another video the day before they release or something like that. But sometimes the changes just they're not drastic enough to warrant another video, so I won't make those. If you are the type that wants to see every change that comes through to a character on Test Center, I highly recommend downloading the Test Center yourself and taking a look, because some of these changes, they are kind of cool, but they're just not, they're good. Like, not every viewer wants to see, oh, okay, this power got increased by 10%. This power does 10% more damage. This power does 10% less damage. This power is a little bit more purple. Not every viewer wants to know all of those little tiny details. But brand new skills are generally the things like this over here, or turn up the heat for Lockheed. Things like this are generally what I like to, if there's something like that, I'll go back and make a video. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about that, and so you guys know what to expect. There's this little change that I read about. Will he make a video about it? Probably not. But if there are major character playstyle in changes, then I will probably make a video for it. Alright. Anyway, rant over. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take it easy. Have a good one. Peace.